What's good, everybody? Welcome to Unfair Sports, where we take a pensive approach to the sports conversation. This is our weekly fantasy episode with the OSG. Thank you for checking us out wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on our YouTube channel. While you are there, please rate us and review us and give us 5 stars. You don't think we deserve it? Man, just give us 5 anyway and gift it. So, well, today we're going to chop it up, of course. Last week in fantasy sports, prepping you all for week 4 of daily fantasy football. We're going to go through 5 games that we think make the most sense to pay attention to. We'll talk a couple of positions and close out with our frozen features. So if you want to hit us up on the Unfair fan line, 430-901-1906, and let us know what you think of the show. Let us know what picks you decide to go with and how much money you won, because I won money, so you should be able to as well. So hit us up on the Unfair fan line, 430-901-1906. OSG, what it do?
We are ready for week 4.
We got week 4 on the brain.
I like it. Let's keep rolling. Give us more stats. Give us more stuff to look at.
Give us more numbers. Give us more opportunities to win and take somebody else's money. So, all right. As we mentioned before, please, while you're on the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, and share, because sharing is caring. And give us some comments. Let us know which picks you think make the most sense and which ones don't, so that we can start building our lineups together. I mean, make this a group project. I'm always down for group projects when it comes to making money. So, with that, let's take a gander into how last week looked. How'd you finish out, OSG?
Oh, last week was kind of hit and miss, so I'm going to call it a loss. So I'm going to say that we 1-2 this season, but that's all right. So week 4 is coming, so I'm ready to even it out and roll on. But, I felt good about the process. We was going over the lineups at the end. It was really just the bottom of the lineup, didn't get the right tight ends.
Right.
I wrote in the article, hey, you got to nail the tight end, like it's key. And then the defense didn't pan out. Tennessee didn't really do what playing. I kind of went with a lot of them, and I don't know why when I saw the Cleveland Browns doing what I said that they would do on the podcast, but
yeah, that's how I felt too.
Building leads, and and that was the difference. So we're ready to roll. I still feel good about it though.
I agree. Last week wasn't bad for me. It wasn't as profitable as the 2 weeks before,
right.
But like I showed you, one of my best lineups I had was like 184 points, and I died right at the end.
Yes,
it was one position that killed me, and this guy lucked out that his kicker saved him, and that's Marquise Hollywood Brown.
Yep.
Hollywood was my pick. If he would have caught those 3 touchdowns, I'd probably had over 215 points.
Yep.
Probably would have won the week.
Yep. So, you feel good about your process. You did what you're supposed to do. He was in the spot that he's supposed to. So, you don't change nothing. You do the same research and you just repeat and trust the process. And that's a good example of that. You'll be so close and, keep pushing.
Yep. So like in the league that I was in, the top guy, the $100,000 winner, he was at 235. He had Matt Stafford going out there with Najee Harris, which I thought was a fantastic pick.
Yep.
Austin Eckler with his traditional 22 points. Cooper Kupp, of course. I don't understand where the hell Mike Williams is coming from this year.
Well, they wanted to push the ball up to him upfield, and he may be kind of moving Keenan Allen to be the number 1 receiver. And that's what the new coordinator, new coach, they wanted to use him differently instead of just downfield boom or bust, and it's working. He's becoming the better player on the field.
And, and you're right there. I guess my issue I've always had with Mike Williams is that the 4 years that I have drafted him, he forgets how to play football for most of the season.
That's the coaching and that's the play calling, and it's a new season, and they use him a different way, and this is what he's supposed to be. And
then I bench him, and then he does really, really good, and then you drop him, and he does even better.
Yes.
And then you just never recover. So I guess I've never learned anything with Mike Williams. So this year,
but I said that in week 1. I was like, I hate playing Mike Williams, but that's the old Mike, and I still said, still probably play him. And
I think I give it to Justin Herbert, who actually likes to be vertical with the ball, who likes to go down the field, and as much as he wants to get it to Keenan Allen, he has to actually pay attention to everybody on the field. So I guess that's more so probably the thing I'm thinking about.
To do so, we follow the game plan.
We're following the game plan. Yep. So speaking of game plans, let's go ahead and dive into our first game. So we've got, like I said, 5 games this week that we want to focus on so we can shorten the show up and really to give you precise info, cut back all the fluff, Let's look at certain players, look at certain positions. We're going to go to each side of each game and tell you what you should really pay attention to and go for. So,
because you only can play the slate that you have in front of you.
Exactly.
Sometimes
every
it's
week,
a lot. Sometimes it's very narrow, straightforward, and I kind of feel that way about this week, actually.
Yeah, it's one of those weeks. I don't think that it's something that's. I don't think it's a lot of extra. Last week to me felt like the most. Is probably the biggest slate. That was probably the most action we probably were going to see, and there was a lot of games that were, high scores.
Yeah.
So
a lot of ways could have went.
Exactly. So we're going to go over the Chiefs and Eagles to start. We'll have the Texans and the Bills. We'll explain why. Panthers and the Cowboys, the Browns and Vikings, and then we'll wrap up with the Cardinals taking on the Rams. So to start us off. Before we jump into it, again, thanks for checking us out on the YouTube page. Please follow us on our Twitter at UNFAIRSports, Instagram at @unfair_sports, as well as on Instagram with the OSG Report.
Yep.
Follow us there. You'll see that. And then, of course, OSG is going to give us a full written report on everything on Saturday. That way you can digest it and prepare to build your rosters Sunday morning. So with that, let's dive in, shall we? First game. The Kansas City Chiefs are traveling to play the Philadelphia Eagles, who's coming off that Monday night unthriller.
Can't get any worse.
Can't get any worse. But the Chiefs are 6-point favorites traveling cross country, while the over-under is set at 54.5. First thing I'm going to say on this game, I don't think it's going to end up being 54.5, even though the Philadelphia Eagles seem to score a lot of points.
Yep.
But I think it's going to hit the under. Definitely take the Chiefs on the spread because Philly is just not that team right now. Even though Kansas City is struggling at 1-2, being at the bottom of the AFC West, they are going to rebound. Josh Gordon should play. I think he's expected to be on the field.
I don't know if he'll be a factor in week one.
Not a factor, but he's expected to be on the field. So that's something to keep in mind as you look forward thinking. So let's start with the Chiefs. What are you looking at with the Chiefs?
We always wanted to attack tight ends against Philly. We were kind of all over Kittle, but the offense just didn't pop. So I think this is a really good spot for Kelsey this week. Dallas tight ends, they caught 8 balls, 94 yards, 2 touchdowns against Philly. So I think that you play Kelsey. He's got 26 targets, tied with Tyreek for the lead for the team. And even though he's A1, I think you stack them two up. It's always the same people with them. You can look at Hardman, you can look at Robinson, but I think this is the week to play up at tight end for Kelsey, put him with Mahomes. I think that's the way to go. Philly kind of, you can play Tyreek every week, but they kind of keep the wide receivers in check from a defensive standpoint. They force action in the middle of the field, so that's why I really do like Kelsey in this game.
They seem to drop back, so they want everything in front of them. They play everything in front.
Yep, and that's kind of taken away the Tyreek factor. Like they try to, some teams have been trying to take him out. He's had a low 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But that's just game plan. I don't think there's anything wrong with him. Teams are just trying to take him out.
They got people shadow him. They got 2 people shadow him on a lot of plays that I've seen, so it makes sense. And if you have a solid front four, which I can't really say the Eagles do, you can just send 3 or 4 to chase Mahomes and force him to stay in the pocket. But the problem with that is that Mahomes is not going to stay in the pocket. He's too good to keep in the pocket.
Kelsey, he's 20 catches already, 289 yards, 3 touchdowns. Just keep playing him.
So play Kelsey. I do like that with the playing the tight end. I don't know about Hill. He's got to have a breakout game eventually.
He's got to say, they both have 26 targets, so it's not like he's just out of the equation.
Right. But I'm more so some of the deep factor plays, like scoring like he did. What was that? The first game against the Ravens.
And this will be the kind of game environment that he could explode anyway. So
I can see that. What's the weather looking like?
It's fine in Philly. Nothing wrong there.
Okay, good.
I don't mind going back. CEH, the price went up 600 after he played well, got into the end zone. We kind of got on him a little bit more as Sunday rolled around more than we were earlier. You just had to kind of follow the value. And I think this is another week that running back that, there's some decent studs out there, but don't forget these running backs in these high total games.
That's a good point.
You can go back to him.
Okay.
But Kelsey is my favorite.
Kelsey's the favorite. All right, what we looking like with Philly?
Like we said, can't get any worse.
Really
the tight ends aren't a bad play against him if you can kind of take a chance on Goddard and Ertz, but I'm kind of looking at Devontae Smith now. The Chiefs do kind of keep wide receivers in check as well, but can't get any worse. They didn't give the ball to Miles Sanders. I think he's probably the best bring back on Philly side. I think they have to get him back involved again, and running backs against the Chiefs are a thing. So I think he can go there. He's only 6'4", can't get any worse. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So when you say it won't hit the under, I think if it's not, it's because of the Philly side. I think the Chiefs do their part. The Chiefs have had some tough matchups out the gate. You know, they played the Chargers. We talked about that defense. You know, Dallas defense is, but I think the Chiefs, I think they bounce back just fine this week. I don't think there's anything wrong with them.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything. September football. We'll forget about it.
Yeah, it's still early. It's still early. I mean, you know, it'll be our first weekend in October, so it's still early in the season. We're only in week 4. We got a quarter in to kind of figure out what the hell's actually happening.
Yeah.
So,
and the Chiefs don't have a good defense. They give up a lot of production. So, pieces on that Philly side. Sanders, but I kind of have some interest in Devonta Smith, though. I do.
Really?
I do.
Why is that?
He's got 21 targets so far. He's leading targets from Jalen Hurts. So. It's gonna be it could be a track meet. Like if it hits the 54 over, it's got to be Hurts and somebody. He's gonna run a little bit, but I think Smith would be the biggest beneficiary if it gets really back and forth outside of Sanders.
That's a good point.
Yeah,
that's a good point. Defense wise, who you thinking?
None in this game. I wouldn't touch any one of these defenses.
I think you should consider Kansas City's defense, and this is the only reason why. They're going to be probably a little cheaper. They're around at 3,200. I wouldn't touch the Eagles, but the Chiefs I would only because Jalen Hurts will most likely turn the ball over.
Yeah, that's true.
He has a tendency. He does run a bakery. He will either fumble the ball because of loose hands, or he'll throw a pass that's telegraphed and it may turn into a pick six.
And it'll have to throw more if the Chiefs are leading by 7 or more as their favorite to do.
And so I can see the Honey Badger getting a pick or two because he is very good instinct, so he can probably get to that point. That's one to pay attention to is if you do need a defense at about the 3,200 under 3,500. They're one to consider for that. So okay. All right, we're going to jump into our next game. But beforehand, make sure that you like and subscribe here on the YouTube channel, as well as follow, rate, and review on wherever you get your podcast, download it, and listen to. We appreciate all the comments. Leave a comment, leave a message. Let us know what you think. You can also hit us up on the fan line, 430-901-1906. So in this game, we've got the Houston Texans traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills. Afternoon game, of course. It looks like it's going to be a little bit of rain, potentially. The Bills are 16-point favorites with the over-under set at 47. So I always like looking at totals like this, which I think this is kind of middle of the road total with a very high spread. That tells me that you should probably take the under and then take the team that is the dog. Right. Even though I would not actively endorse taking the Texans in any game with Tyrod Taylor being injured and Davis Mills, the new rookie quarterback, running the show. But the Texans defense is ranked 12th in DVOA on the defensive side.
I got a rebuttal for that.
Yeah.
Because I looked into that.
They ain't played nobody.
They've played Trevor Lawrence, Baker with no weapons, and Sam Darnold. Who's decent. Because
hey, Baker and them,
they kept the Carolina game a little closer. They kept the Carolina game closer than So that's why I kind of wonder. They could keep that close, and if they can just keep it for 3 quarters, then we can see the ceiling on the Buffalo side. Which we're really just gonna. I say we're really just gonna talk about the Buffalo side, but Houston side, you do got to mention Brandon Cooks. I mean, he's got 20 plus targets from Davis Mills himself. So,
Davis Mills likes him a lot.
He's a solid number 1 receiver every week at a decent price.
Yeah, he's more so that safety blanket that we talk about. Yeah. Every quarterback has that one guy that they're going to go to on a regular basis, and Cooks is only at 6,400, so you can match him up with another elite player.
Yeah.
And that will help
him
you
with the quarterback. He's just a nice little roster filler when you're filling up your lineups.
Yep. That's what you need. So adding that... That's probably it for them. I wouldn't even touch their running backs, unfortunately. Nope. Their running game just not... Nope. I mean, I like Ingram and David Johnson and Phillip Lindsay overall as like players, but I wouldn't touch them without an actual quarterback on the field. So they're not worth your time.
Nope.
This is the reason why we're going to bring up this game is because of the Buffalo Bills, which has the number 2 defense DVOA. So if you want to spend up on a defense and build your roster around that, this is the defense to go with.
Yeah, and you could actually stack Zach Moss with that defense. I think that is actually a good correlated play. Even though he got the inactive in week 1, ever since then he's kind of went back and took over Devin Singletary. He's last week 45 snaps to Singletary's 33. He outtouched him 16-12, 91-26 in yards, and even had the touchdown. So at 5'3", I think he's one of those value running backs that we can look at. I'm kind of trying to get off Mike Davis, see who else we can go with for cheap. I think Zach Moss isn't the worst play.
Yeah.
But it starts and stops with Josh Allen. Texans gave up ninth most fantasy points to quarterbacks, and he's just going to probably throw 4 touchdowns, real fast in this game, and they can go to anybody. They can go to Diggs. He's got 31 targets. Beasley's got 30. Sanders only got 20 targets, but he's getting these downfield targets. He's getting the big play, and him and Beasley, they kind of exploded last week. So.
Yeah, that feels like the biggest deal when it comes to Buffalo is that Josh Allen spreads the ball around. Of course, their highest graded receiver is Stephon Diggs. He has the highest amount of snaps.
Yeah, still 10 targets a game. So,
he's consistent on that, but
this is when you
they spread it around.
Yeah, but I think this is when you buy low on them, when everybody's Beasley and the groupthink thing. We just looked at that lineup, the $1 million lineup.
Yep,
Allen, Beasley, and Sanders, not Diggs.
They had all 3 of them on there.
Yeah, so people want to go and follow that kind of trend, try to go cheap. Nobody's wanting to play Diggs. He looks slow, but I don't think there's again, kind of like Tyreek's, nothing wrong with him.
It's just everybody's keying in on him.
Yeah.
The belief right now is, and Josh Allen kind of showed us at the beginning of the season, last game was his best graded game of the season, but the last 4 games before last week, to last 2 in the playoffs,
right,
including in the first 2 games of this season, he was graded at about what he looked like his first 2 seasons in the league. Really bad. So that to me tells me that what everyone's mindset was, if we get rid of Diggs, we get the old Josh Allen back. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? So if you get the old Josh Allen back, that means that you're going to be able to force him to do things that he shouldn't do.
Yeah, but
but then he proved himself last week that I'm going to be smarter. I'm going to take my time, and I'm going to hit everybody and take advantage of the fact you're keen on Diggs.
You got to have weapons. So when they added Manny Sanders, they gave the weapon. They gave the ability to spread it out. They gave them the Zach Moss to also be able to rely on. So it's actually making it even tougher to defend them. And, we're not even through with people. I think at 3-6, whether, not necessarily a stack, I think you can play Dawson Knox. I think he's got 12 targets over his last 12 games, 7 touchdowns. He catches 74% of his targets. So I think at 3-6, I think you can fill him in if you kind of looking to spin down. When I'm not up here with Kelsey, I'm going to be down here with people like Knox, Logan Thomas, players like that. So I think you can go with him.
Definitely a good play. So if you want a double stack, I would run that Beasley Sanders a second time. I know that the Texans are going to key in on Stephon Diggs. If you want to run a separate roster, I'd say run multiple rosters with the Bills players. Run with Diggs and Allen. Actually, one with Diggs and Allen, one with Allen, Beasley, and Sanders, and then one with Moss and the defense.
Yeah, I'm playing them all. Diggs, Sanders,
so mix
Diggs,
them up.
Beasley, Knox, Moss defense, that's why I wanted to kind of go over that game. I think that all of the pieces from Buffalo, if you land on a little salary saver spot, I think they're all viable. Yeah, especially in this kind of game environment against the Houston Texans. Maybe it's a little rain, but it's not going to stop them from scoring 30 points.
Agreed.
I do not believe so.
Agreed. So that's your take on the Bills and Texans game. That's the only reason why it would be worth your time. So next up, we're going to talk Panthers and Cowboys. All right, our next game up, we have the Dallas Cowboys hosting the Carolina Panthers down in the South. Dallas is a 5-point favorite at the house with a over-under looking at about 52 this morning, which is on Thursday night that we are recording. Weather, of course, is sunny. Afternoon game in Dallas, so it's going to be beautiful. It's going to be just your standard look. Right. I don't know what to say about this game.
I do.
There's a lot to. I feel like it's a lot to play on one side, especially with the injuries that we're seeing. But there is a chance that this game can live up to the 52. I'm concerned about Dallas because of what happened. What was that week 1 against? Well, not that Tampa Bay game. The second game against the Rams when they didn't live up to that number.
Right.
We thought they were going to hit those high numbers, and it just did not happen. And
the Rams defense, you saw them kind of. I had good lineups with Brady, but they kind of put the stall on Brady, always look at who they're playing. Carolina's defense, we're still trying to figure out if they're a decent defense. So there is reason to pause. Like, everybody can't score 52. It's every game not going to always.
My
hit
apologies.
That,
that was the Chargers that I was thinking of.
Okay.
The Chargers,
and again, we kind of realize in what I've
Chargers defense is actually
and more so the pass defense. Learning that you can run on the Chargers, but they're not on this one. But that's kind of why that running game looked pretty good that night, because it's the running game against the Chargers that is proven to be something to target. So I can't wait till they're back on the slate. So we'll get to that. But
I'm with you.
I think on this Carolina side,
let's start with Carolina first.
I really like their offense. Darnold's only 6K. He's got 3 rushing touchdowns this season. One of my favorite running back plays is going to be Chuba Hubbard. When C-Mac went down, he immediately came in, got 5 targets. We talked about this offense is designed to get fantasy points to their running back position. It has us thinking that Mike Davis is the number 1 running back. He finished as the 12th best fantasy running back last year after Christian McCaffrey's injury. And so that just shows what kind of offense this is. DJ Moore is playing like a number 1 wide receiver. He's got 31 targets. He's only 6'6", and I think that Darnold, DJ Moore stacks are in play this week.
Really?
Oh yeah, he's and nobody is going to play Robbie Anderson, but because I do not think that Dallas's defense is as good as it's kind of looked in some games.
Who's their number 1?
Who's Carolina?
Yeah, Carolina number 1.
DJ Moore.
DJ Moore?
Oh yeah.
Don't touch him then. No. Diggs is going to shadow him. They're going to have Diggs shadow him,
okay,
and Diggs is legitimate.
Yeah,
he's legit.
So if you do think that's the case, that's why you then go play Robbie Anderson. You play the big play guy.
That makes sense.
This is and my other favorite play, you go back to Terrace Marshall. He's only 4K. We've been waiting on the rookies to explode.
I didn't think of that one.
So you kind of look at all the pieces in that game. So if you do think that DJ Moore is going to kind of get taken out a little bit, look at these other pieces, because they're not going to stop. Like, the offense is going to move. Like, this offense is good. They have yet, Carolina has yet to trail this season on offense with the ball. Would you don't expect that, but not trailed yet.
No, they haven't. And at the same time, we mentioned at the beginning, you got to kind of look at who they played.
Look at who they play, but there's still something to there's still something to go against. They're a team playing with confidence.
They are. They're walking in.
Darnold looks
hot.
really good.
They're 3-0.
Yeah.
They started the season against the Jets in a low scoring game. They beat up and dismantled the Saints, which was a shocker. And then they traveled to Houston and played them, in which Tyrod Taylor did not play. It was Davis Mills' first game. So they've lucked out with what they've had to deal with. I don't see them as high on the DVOA side like DVOA statistics do, only because we know what their strength of schedule looks like. This is going to get adjusted after this week because they do a adjustment at week 4 based upon strength of schedule. The strength of schedule is trash. So it doesn't help them.
60-yard touchdown to Robbie Anderson this week.
Ooh, so you're predicting some big plays out of him for real.
He is going to.
Dallas does kind of put out on the big play. So
they've given up the 7th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So while Diggs may shut down one, that's still leaving plenty of opportunity for others in the offense.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
That's a fair point.
Yeah.
So the question I have on that is will we get something out of Chuba Hubbard to go along with this offense?
I do believe so.
Okay, so
I think we'll see a full target game. Like, he is going to be. I listened to this one guy. He called Mike Davis last year. He called him 90% CMC. He's just like him, but they ain't going to utilize him like that. That's how they're going to play.
He's diet CMC.
Yeah, we saw Alexander Madison step right into the Dalvin Cook role. Some of these offenses don't change for the player. And we're going to see that with Hubbard. We saw it with Madison. That's what we're going to see out of Hubbard this week.
I mean, that you're not wrong there. Dallas's defense is something to think about in this game. They've given up how many yards on the ground each game?
And they missing DeMarcus Lawrence.
They didn't give a 52 to Tampa.
Yeah,
they're not giving up very many yards. So there's something to consider with the Hubbard. So there's a chance that this could be the week that he could break out. I think their offensive line in Carolina is actually not very bad.
No, yeah, and they've been off. They played Thursday night.
Oh yeah, so they've got even more time to rest.
They're ready in the dome. It's gonna be a good game.
Okay,
I like a lot on the Carolina side.
All right, so on the Dallas side, let's jump into them real quick.
Everybody's gonna chase the running game. I think you go to the air. I think you go to Dak. I think you go to Lamb. I think you go to Cooper. Cooper's kind of been a little quiet. I think Zeke has kind of taken back over a little bit of Pollard. He was slow out of the gate. He outsnapped him 53-29, even though Pollard looks good with his opportunities. But Zeke outtouched him 20-12. ran 16 more routes. So you got to go where it's going. And he didn't get priced up. He's only 6'5". They played Monday night, so he didn't adjust the salary based on his performance. So I think kind of getting him. But I do think that the passing game is I think that's what we want to attack, I think.
Okay.
Go Lamb, go to Cooper, kind of stack them. Then go back to Dalton Schultz. 15 targets. You kind of talked about him a couple of weeks ago, and I think you can go back to him.
So then the question you have to ask yourself is, do we touch Pollard or Zeke?
I don't think you touch Pollard. I do think you take a shot on Zeke, though.
Oh, man. I'm opposite, and I'm only opposite because with the PFF grades and the efficiencies that Tony Pollard provides that Zeke doesn't, less touches, more yards, and touchdowns.
I will say this about the matchup overall. It's a bad matchup for running backs against Carolina. So I do like the passing game. So I'm not like in love with Zeke. If I picked one, I would just go with him. He'll be the one.
He gets the snaps.
So let's say, for instance, Carolina actually goes up and they start throwing. That they got to throw from behind. You're going to have Zeke on the field. Yeah, Pollard catches balls. Well, you can have either one of them on the field. So
yeah, they've been playing both. That's the thing is that they've been playing them both. Yeah. Zeke has got the most snaps. So offensively,
he did.
Zeke he's got 101 snaps to 30 receiving snaps this season. So they're keeping Zeke out a lot more. But when they bring in Tony is a difference maker. You can actually see production out of him. Grade wise, he's at an 89, where Zeke's at a 68.
Yep.
So you see a big difference there. So it's something to consider.
Yeah, I kind of think, kind of depending on where you're playing him at. I kind of been on DK prices. He's up at 5'7" with Pollard. And so I just had to go with Hubbard at 5'9", who's going to start and have entire control of his backfield.
That's a good point.
What's his name is 5'4", CEH, he'll up to 5'4", so I get the play, but, if you're going to go with one of them, I would just rather go Zeke. Zeke seems to be on the trend up.
Right.
Even though those numbers, how they have been for the season, recency.
Yeah, recency bias. He had a good week last week. So, okay. Defense-wise, if I would play a defense, I'd probably play Dallas's. Because I think this is the first real defense that Carolina's seen.
Right.
And there's a good chance that this Dallas defense, which has not allowed 100 yards rushing at all this season in the first 3 games, in which they played Tampa Bay, they played against the Chargers, they played against Philly.
I did look at that. I was kind of noticing that they'd have, through 3 games, a good rush defense. You kind of start getting some...
and they get turnovers.
Yeah, only Eckler was the only running game that you would want to do something. Like you said, Tampa, they're not running. So it was not a question that they didn't have a good outing.
Right. And either Miles Sanders, nothing to expect out of him.
They didn't give him the ball. He only touched the ball like 2 times in that game. That's why I think Sanders just got to be a bounce back, by the way, in that game. It just has to be. But, so we look at, yes, that's how the rush defense has been, but I think they all come with asterisks in the performances in each of those games, too. And I think that Carolina, they just kind of create a role to be matchup dependent against these defenses. We've seen McCaffrey do well. They play in the South. We've seen him have good games against Tampa. He can't run on Tampa. We've seen McCaffrey have big fantasy games against them because they just design the offense just to do stuff.
No, you're right. You're right. So, all right, that's something to think about, something to consider with both Dallas and Carolina. Next up, we're going to talk about the Cleveland Browns and the Minnesota Vikings. All right. Once again, thanks for checking us out. Please follow us wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on the social medias. Below, you'll see we have our Twitter at UNFAIRSports, Instagram at @unfair_sports, OSG Report at OSG Report. So follow us, comment, let us know what you think, and let us know what picks you made that made you win.
Right.
Tag us on your lineups. We'd love to see them. So with that, let's jump into the next game. We've got the Cleveland Browns traveling up north to play against the Minnesota Vikings. And the Browns looks like they are now a 2-point favorite going into this one with the over-under set at 51.
I'm a little surprised.
Right. I would not have expected them to be favorites. And this is part of the morning slate. Cloudy, but they're in Minnesota, so
close it.
They're going to probably close it just to make sure that they don't get infringed by any weather. All right, OSG. Let's start with the home squad, Minnesota. What are you looking at when it comes to the Vikings? That's something we should play.
Well, I think that some of the news driven to see what they're going to do with Dalvin Cook. Still very limited in practice. He missed last week's game. I think that is a big storyline. It's kind of like if Cook is in, I kind of don't have interest in him. But if he's out, I do have interest in Madison himself.
Yeah, because Madison seems to not fall off whenever Cook is not playing.
Yeah, he'll have a big week, then have a kind of a low week. But really on this side, I kind of like the passing game. I kind of, Jefferson bounced back. Thielen, I kind of like going back to the passing game here. I actually kind of like Cousins in this spot, to tell you the truth. I know that Cleveland's defense pretty good. They, I won't say very good, but I think that they letting him throw, and I think he looks pretty good. I think I like Cousins this week. Stack him back up. I tried to ride the KJ Osborne train as long as I could. I think I'm jumping off. Here comes Tyler Conklin out of nowhere, but follow the numbers. KJ Osborne, his targets are going down. He came out the gate with 9 targets. Then he had 6 in last week too. So he's going in the wrong direction. And so I think you shifted and you just kind of go back to the main guys. You go with Jefferson and Thielen. Can't go wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Can't go wrong.
That's a good point. I would say this will probably be one of the better weeks to go with Osborne. Because of we know the focus is going to be Jefferson and Thielen.
Yeah, but the Browns, they gave up, he kind of talked about how people took Tyreek Hill out. The Browns didn't do that. They gave up 197 yards to Tyreek Hill.
Yeah.
Gave up 9 catches, 78 yards and a touchdown to Brandon Cooks. So, I don't think that they gonna be that great at taking them out.
Yeah, they don't really have even though Peterson is supposed to be better than that, but I think his age is starting to show as he is shadowing receivers and his shadowing isn't doing what he used to do.
So I think we can go back to him now. Will I talk you off of KJ Osborne? Not at all. I think in this kind of track meet game, you play everybody because, we don't know what kind of game plan Minnesota will come with. I was trying to figure out why we saw a little bit of less Osborne last week, and all of a sudden they took out the 3 wide receivers, came back with more Conklin. Could have been matchup driven. I don't know. That's what I was wondering. They got Madison in. Maybe he's not as good as pass blocking as Cook is, so they want him to go a little bit more tight end and wide receiver. Wondering why all of a sudden Osborne's going the wrong way when he came out looking so good. So maybe they go back to a spread offense and you go see a little bit more Osborne this week. So
that's true.
Yeah, I wouldn't talk you off of it. But Madison, if he's in and Cook is out, he touched the ball 32 times. He saw 8 targets, had 171 yards. He had about as big a game as Dalvin Cook can have and has had this season. At only 6.6 while Cook is 8-1. Because even if Cook plays, is he going to be 100%? He's still not practicing. It's Thursday. Still barely limited in practice. Kind of see how he practiced Friday, and that'll kind of be what we go off of. But if he's out, I think you just kind of go right back to Madison this week.
I'm honestly super shocked that we haven't seen D.D. Westbrook.
I'm not.
I am. He was a pretty solid catcher in Jacksonville. I figured you would see a little bit more out of him as a little speed guy. But
I don't think he's big enough. I just don't, they want to stay, as little as KJ Osborne is seeing, he's still clearly the number 3 receiver over here.
Oh yeah, because when he gets it, he's making the most of it. Yeah. Where we've only seen 1 catch out of D.D. Westbrook. So okay, Cleveland offense. Let's go to Cleveland side. What are we looking at to really pay attention to on that side?
Oh, man. Trying to figure out the Browns side. I want to love them, but, who do you love? Nick Chubb, I keep wanting to make him work. Exactly. I keep wanting to make Nick Chubb work, but it's just, him not getting targets. If he's just not running all over him, then he's not effective. But if the Browns really have this lead, if they're really going to be favored, but I kind of think that I finally like Kareem Hunt. He's only 6K. He's 11 targets, kind of leads active players right now. Saw 7 targets last week, and his touch count is going up. We talked about Osborne going down. 9, 14, 16.
Yep.
He's going in the upward direction.
I'd say that $1,000 is a big deal. That's a big difference when it comes to building your roster. So I like Kareem Hunt a lot more.
We need him to get, if he's going to play this volume the way he's doing, he's got to get in the end zone. He's got to get a touchdown.
And I think that's he did last week, and I think that he'll continue to keep that trend going.
Truth be told, both of these running backs got to get in the end zone. Chubb's got to get in the end zone.
He really does.
With the yards that he's getting isn't bad. he's a candidate to break off a big run. I kind of see this, the Derrick Henry all of a sudden just runs, and Chubb's got that in him.
Yep, he goes from 48 yards to all of a sudden have 120.
Yeah, because he broke off a 70-yard touchdown.
Exactly.
Because he's just not going to be involved in the pass game. He's not getting targets. That's just not how they use him. It's Hunt's role. If OBJ is healthier than he was a week ago at 5'8", I think you can play him. You know what?
This is probably a week I would eyeball.
Yeah, he's in
OBJ.
this dome. It's a track meet. I think that his speed can be utilized in this game. Baker he actually spreads the ball around.
He does.
Wide receivers in Cleveland have one of the lower target shares of any wide receiver core in the league. They
Goodness.
they got three tight ends that they use. They use Hooper, they use Njoku, they use Harrison Bryant.
Yeah.
And now you got Kareem Hunt out of the backfield, Donovan Peoples-Jones. So he spreads it around.
Yeah, he's an equal opportunity passer.
His
completion percentage is freaking ridiculous.
And if you just want a wild play, I don't hate Austin Hooper. You can just touch any of these pieces and fill in. If you kind of think the game gets back and forth, in this dome, I think that Browns can put up some points. You just don't love from the fantasy aspect these pieces on the Brown side as much as you like Minnesota, because on Minnesota, it's going to Jefferson and Thielen. If Cook is out, we know what to do with Madison. You're just fighting over Osborne and Conklin over there.
Yeah, the problem I have with Baker is that even at 6'2", he would be a very attractive priced guy. Mm-hmm. He doesn't throw very many touchdowns.
No.
He spreads the ball around and all of a sudden give it to the run game, and either Kareem Hunt or Nick Chubb runs it in. Mm-hmm. He's only got 5 touchdowns this season or 4. I'm sorry, he has 2 passing touchdowns this season.
Yeah,
it's
efficient,
not,
but low. He's efficient, but just in low volume.
Yeah, he's a low volume guy, averaging 9.8 yards a pass.
Actually, so the only way to do it is if it's really a shootout and he has to pass, because he's averaging 9.8 pass attempts, but that's good. But he's only throwing, but he's 27th into actual attempts.
Yeah, because he doesn't have to throw the ball much. They have a balanced offense, so to me, Cleveland, you may want to pick 1 or 2. This isn't a stackable game.
I think Hunt is my favorite. Hunt is my favorite piece with OBJ behind him. Without the stack, without Baker stack, just fill in Hunt, maybe OBJ. He's only 5. Receiver, he's only 5'8".
Yeah, he could shock you though.
He's
this is a track meet.
At 5'8".
This is a track meet in Minnesota in the dome. Baker could go ball out, but as you mentioned, I wouldn't stack. So
we've seen good
defense-wise,
performances on the opposite side of these Minnesota games.
Agreed. So defense-wise, honestly, I would probably take Cleveland's over Minnesota's, even though both pass rushes are really good.
Yeah.
Hunt with Hunter on one side and Myles Garrett on the other. You have options to pick someone that's probably going to get pressure and probably get a sack or 2, but I don't see turnovers unless it's Kirk Cousins.
Right.
But this is a 12 o'clock game, so Kirk Cousins will have a good game because it's 12 o'clock. So keep that in mind. This is an early game. He's going to play good. So
I don't hate that Browns call defense.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we're going to talk Cardinals and the Rams. All right, thanks again for checking us out here on Unfair Sports, our OSG Fantasy Report. Remember, the OSG will actually give a full written report on the Medium page, medium.com/unfair, and you'll see the OSG on our feature page. Mm-hmm. He will have a full write-up with all the true details, where this is a synopsis as we talk through our minds on what's going on. So the next game we have the Arizona Cardinals traveling to play against the Los Angeles Rams at SoFi Stadium. The Rams are 5-point favorites at the house with a 54.5 point total. All right. This game, of course, it's inside, so we have to really worry about, it's a combination of inside, outside, whatever the hell they try to do with it. Yep. This one, to be honest, I think this one's going to hit the numbers. I think it's going to hit over 50.
Yeah, despite being a division game, I always kind of get a little leery of those, but I do think so. You just got the 2 of the most efficient offenses going at each other. Kyler Murray, 9.9 yards pass attempts. He's the number 1 fantasy quarterback. Some people will look at last week's performance as a down against Jacksonville, but it was just a different game flow. He didn't need the touchdowns. He had Connor running in between the 20s. He was still efficient. It wasn't throwing the ball. He wasn't throwing turnovers. He wasn't just kind of throwing balls out of bounds. He still was Kyler. So I think you get a good bounce back spot. The question is who you stacking with and if you stack them, because I think that between, we talked about all these other games, you can just play this game and be okay to start off with. And I think that, D-Hop's still a little banged up, and at 7-7, I'm not really kind of feeling him. I hate to say it, but I'm looking at AJ Green and Christian Kirk again.
I can see that. So last year when they played first game of the season, it was 38-28. Rams won. Okay. So it was a little bit of a shootout. Okay. Second game was a lot lower, but at the same time, Kyler was a little banged up. Yep. It was end of the season, last game.
And I would say the second division game, which that's a proven stat. The second division game usually is a lower total.
Yep.
When they come around in that game. And in this time around, D-Hop's a little banged up. AJ Green, he has 18 targets. D-Hop has 18. Kirk has 17. Rondale Moore, 15. Very tight. You can even play Max Williams, the tight end, at 3K. 10 targets. He kind of getting into the mix. Kyler's getting, he's playing really good football.
He really is. And the good thing about, like you mentioned with Kyler, similar to the way he does, similar to like a Baker and who else did we talk to not too long ago? They spread the ball around.
Yeah, but they're doing it, and they're doing it a lot of, they're getting it in volume though.
But that's the thing to say, Kyler does it in volume, and Kyler also does another thing. Yeah. He scores a lot of touchdowns himself, or he's throwing one. Most of the points are coming from him in some capacity. So he's a great player overall.
Yep, so I was going to say, you can play him there. If you're really not comfortable with those wide receiver plays and stacking them, you just play Kyler. Just play him. Chase Edmonds got 16 receptions so far, as quiet as it kept. He's 5'5". It's Edmonds in between the 20s.
Yep.
It's Connor in the red zone.
Yeah, they give it to Connor. He's a red zone guy.
And we saw that kind of coming to fruition last week, and that's kind of where some of Kyler's fantasy points went to, where there's two James Conner touchdowns. So people will look at it. Yeah, it was low fantasy scoring game, but in terms of efficiency and overall performance, nothing wrong with it. We can go right back to Kyler.
But it always cracks me up, though. The funniest thing about that is Kyler does the exact same play every time he scores in the red zone. Yep. It's literally a naked bootleg, and he just walks over to the end zone with no one close to him. It's like, why do you not realize that he does it every time, and you should be prepared for it? Which, this is a divisional game, so they should be prepared this time around. So, all right, let's jump over there into the Rams side, which is a very
interesting
lucrative side. As you mean, this is what's interesting to me is that Matt Stafford's only 7K.
7K.
That's low for a guy who has been putting up some volume this season.
What's even worse is that Cooper Kupp is only 7.8K. He's playing at 8.2, 8.3.
That feels high for me for Cooper.
It's high, but you got to look at what he's doing. He's the number 2. He's second in the league in targets. He's got 33 targets. He leads in this. He leads with 25 receptions.
Yeah.
Leads with 367 yards.
Yeah.
Leads with 5 touchdowns.
He leads everything.
He leads everything.
He leads everything, but this goes to kind of like we talked about the Chargers before. I guess it's going to be an LA thing. Do you think this is sustainable?
I do. This is all they needed. Matt Stafford in this offense. That's all that he needed.
Yeah,
that's all that he needed, and and we're seeing it. We're seeing it. Tyler Higbee's,
And if you listen to me on our main pod that launches on Tuesdays, I've been talking about Matt Stafford just about every week.
Yeah, he's playing.
We know who he is. We've seen this dude. He's 33 years old. He's no different than he was in Detroit.
Nope.
He's a volume stat. Padford is his nickname.
He has got a significant upgrade in coaching. He's got an upgrade in talent at receiver.
Yeah, no,
he's got an upgrade in the defense behind him. And he's just overall upgrade just in general. And it's just like this offense, like these two teams together, between Tyler Higbee at 4.6 at tight end,
which is super cheap. And
everybody keeps wanting us to play Robert Woods. The builders all over him. And he's not doing anything. And I would rather keep taking a shot on Van Jefferson at 3.9. I know that Deshaun Jackson got involved with the mix last week.
I was going to say go Deshaun Jackson.
I won't talk you off of it.
I'd go. I love Van Jefferson. I was high on him last week. I was high on him the week before. I would probably go back to Deshaun Jackson only because Arizona does not have a deep. I mean, I like Budda Baker, but we watched DK Metcalf.
I think either one of these guys can just have a big play downfield. Like when Van Jefferson
it's gonna be one of the two.
Yeah, in his first couple of weeks when he popped, it was a long ball.
And Matt Stafford wants to throw it deep. He loves to show off his rocket.
We saw that in Detroit. Marvin Jones Jr., Kenny Golladay. We saw that. He made these guys relevant, and now he's got the talent. So if you're making 46 or more lineups like I am, you can play all of them. You can play Kupp. You can play Van Jefferson. Then you can go back and build it with Deshaun Jackson. You can double stack. You can play Kupp and Jackson. You can play Kupp and Van Jefferson. You can play Kupp and Higbee. Higbee, he's caught 11 of 12 targets, 160 yards at a touch. I think you get everybody out of this game.
That's true.
And you can just stop and start it from there, except for the running backs, which did the running back situation in this game. Darrell Henderson isn't really built to carry sustainable, but they show you that they want to pound the running back with the way Michelle played last week.
Yeah, it's true.
So if Henderson is in, you kind of, but maybe Michelle did a little bit that he can carve into Henderson work, even if they're both active. Michelle looked good in that role.
Good point.
He can, and he's shown that he can be a go-to running back, And I do love Higbee. Yeah, I used to just play tight ends against Cardinals. I'm probably just going to be a lot of Higbee, Kelsey. I probably will play Max Williams. He's only $3K. I think you can play him.
Yeah, if you need like a cheaper, throw him in there.
Yeah.
Defense-wise, I would totally take both. And the only reason why I would take both with such a high total is that both will cause turnovers.
Mm-hmm. Chandler Jones, their defense really, this is 2 out of 3 weeks that Cardinals have been on $1 million lineups.
Yes. And granted, they played the Jaguars, but
and Tennessee, which hadn't been great, but
they will cause turnovers. And Stafford has 1 pick so far, so he's due another one, and he has not fumbled yet. No. So he's due a strip sack by Chandler Jones. Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind for this week. I think that's something to think about and play around with.
Yep.
So,
Love this game.
Love it as well. So next up, we're going to jump into running backs defenses and our frozen features. All right, so appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on Unfair Sports with the OSG Fantasy Report. Remember, his report will be written up with all the details.
Yes.
It comes out on Saturday, so you prepared to use it Sunday morning to make all your lineups.
It is a roadmap to building lineups. We go through stacks in that article.
Yep.
We go through some running backs. We kind of tell you that all the receivers in those stacks, just like you heard tonight, give you some good tight ends, give you some good defenses to look at, and that kind of help you with those roster fillers. And
exactly.
Fire them out there. Let us know what you think. Hit me up on Instagram at the OSG Report if you got some questions. Last minute stuff. We'll be up from 8 a.m. up to lock. We're on it. So
yeah, we're probably up earlier than that. Sometimes we're up to around 5 starting to build that stuff.
No matter what happens Saturday night, we're up.
Yeah, exactly. So staying on the grind, staying away. So with that, go ahead and check the description. You'll see the links to all the games that we wanted to highlight this week. And so we're going to highlight some positions real quick. We're going to go through running backs.
Yep.
Defenses, and then we'll talk about the frozen features. This is where we give you all of the most ludicrous picks of the week. Oh, she's prepared this time. He knows what he's going to give us because he doesn't know what I'm going to ask.
Nope.
So I want him to give us off the cuff what he's going to give us. So anyway, with that, let's dive in, shall we? Running backs, OSG. Who are you thinking to target this week?
We talked about during the game by game. I talked about Hubbard. I'm gonna be all over him. DeAndre Swift. I'm still trying to figure out this Lions-Bears game. I think a lot has to do with who's going to be quarterback in Chicago. I kind of have a little bit of interest in the Bears defense, but I really do like DeAndre Swift. He's just getting heavily targeted in that offense.
Swift.
He's getting a lot of PPR work in that offense. He's getting target after target. And, Jared Goff is a capable quarterback. It's not like he's bad. Hawkinson had a low game, so I do like Swift. And then up top, well, even before you get up top, I think Najee Harris, again, he had I think Big Ben's downfall is really benefiting Harris's pass game work.
That is true, because he had, 14 catches last game?
Yeah. So any amount of running work, because he is still the only running back touching the football in Pittsburgh.
He's doing everything. He's running.
He's going to get even near 10 targets. If he can turn any type of running performance in, which of course that would just help if Pittsburgh offense did anything.
On the Pittsburgh offense, you probably want to stick to Najee Harris. And that's it.
And honestly, and they're in the matchup that the running back is going to be favorable going against Green Bay. So I think you can go to him. And then up top, Alvin Kamara, they're in a great matchup. They're playing the Giants.
He should eat.
Yeah, if I was willing to play Mike Davis against them, you can definitely pick it. They're favored by 8.5. They're back at home finally. If they're in the dome, they're going to be, Winston's offense, but they're going to be hyped to be at home.
And at the same time with that, I think this is the week that Winston finally breaks out of his shell, out of his 100-yard shell, and he actually plays. It's more comfort. They'll be more comfortable. Yeah. They're not displaced anymore. Yeah. They're actually in their own crib. They're playing in their dome. They've all been able to go home for a bit.
Yeah, Zach Wilson is terrible. No. They're playing the Giants.
Playing Danny Dimes. So they got Danny Dimes, and Danny Dimes is an interesting case, and we talked about him the last couple of weeks. He will run the ball for 400 yards. He will pass the ball for 250, and he will not get you a single touchdown except for on the ground.
And, and he's got, Sterling Shepard is out, so Kamara and the Saints defense is interesting. But if Dobbs can keep the game closer, I think that helps Kamara even more.
I agree with you.
He's going to touch the ball. He's going to get pass game work. He's going to run. He's going to be the offense. And the better Winston plays, I think that just does nothing but help Kamara even more.
I agree, because I think Kamara is going to be the entire team on this one. So, okay.
Pre-game, you disagree with my Derrick Henry, but at a 7.5 favorite, I really like him. I think that they're just going to – I really think they're going to pound the ball. They have no receiving core. Their best receiver is going to be Westbrook and Chester Rogers.
And it makes sense for them to run the ball.
Just run the ball. And they're running.
And throw screen passes.
And I talked about Zach Williams. They're the ones that's playing the Jets, and I just don't see the Jets doing anything to stop
offensively.
it. Offensively to offset that. And I think that game is going to go real fast. They're just going to run the clock out. Game will be over by 2:30.
It'll be the shortest game of the week.
Yeah. And lastly, we'll get on more running backs in the reports. I don't want to play David Montgomery. I know that he's popping a lot of
he's very popular
optimals this week. They're gonna have to sell me on it. I know they're playing Detroit.
I can't sell.
I guess the only sell is that if Justin Fields is playing, that kind of like Derrick Henry, they're just gonna run the ball like the Bears used to have. They've done that at times and just do nothing but run the ball. And he's gonna touch the ball 30 times. They're gonna run it and they're gonna throw it to him. Because if they change anything about their protection, because Justin Fields' bad performance was the coach's fault.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
5-man protection against that D-line against Cleveland, he didn't stand a chance.
None.
So if they change anything, because, honestly, the offense looked better with Trubisky running it last year and years prior than what they're trotting out this year. And when Trubisky was decent, David Montgomery was usable. So that's maybe why he's popping a little bit. But,
I think they're expecting Justin Fields to get the jitters out and actually go play this week. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yes. I can see it as well. Yep. Another running back I think to keep in mind, too, is Jeremy McNichols, which is Derrick Henry's backup. They do use them interchangeably a lot. Derrick Henry does get majority, but he does catch a lot of passes.
You kind of talk about trash time. So let's say Tennessee jumps out and it's 24-0. He comes out here and runs for 3 touchdowns early. We could see McNichols late.
Yeah, because there's no reason for you to keep Derrick Henry out there. For the next 2 weeks, you have cupcakes, and then you have Monday Night Football versus the Bills, and you need Derrick Henry versus the Bills. So they will probably preserve him for that, so keep that in mind. All right, defenses.
We talked about the Bears' defense, and the problem with the defenses this week is you got some good ones, but they're all expensive.
Oh, they're high. The Titans, they are so high this week.
The Titans went from the one of the lower ranked or lower priced defenses to the second highest one. All of a sudden,
I say the one that everyone, if you're gonna spend up, you either take the Buccaneers or the Bills. You take the top two, and the reason why is the Buccaneers will cause Mac Jones to turn the ball over. Mm-hmm. They will be prepared for that. The Bills are going to do the same thing to Davis Mills. You got 2 rookie quarterbacks.
I was about to say, I mentioned Zach Moss and that Buffalo defense stack. I do like Buffalo quite a bit this week.
Yeah, I'm looking at all the rookies, so you would want to go to Lions. The Lions is worth it just because you got another rookie out there. And then outside of that, defensively, since that's what all your rookies for the most part, that's who you want to go after.
Yeah, Saints defense against I like the Saints defense.
Yeah, because Danny Dimes turned the ball over. That's just his MO.
Buffalo. I probably won't be surprised if I land on a Cleveland defense.
Yeah.
I do think that you can look at the Colts defense against Miami.
Uh-huh.
I also think you can look at Miami's defense against the Colts.
I do like Miami against the Colts. I don't like the Colts against Miami only because Jacoby Brissett, for some really weird reason, in division usually plays a little bit better than he normally plays.
He's not like just a turnover machine.
He isn't, and he's a big dude. So he may take sacks, but he's not going to turn the ball over. And to be honest, you want turnovers more than you want sacks in these leagues.
Washington's defense has not been as good as it's supposed to be.
No.
Otherwise, I would love to take them against Atlanta.
Oh, my God, that would be such a beautiful pick. Yeah. Well, at 35, to be honest, that might be a solid play because it's so cheap.
Mm-hmm. I don't hate the Green Bay's defense. I think it's going to be a really big win. We didn't put receivers on our menu, but I think it'll be a big Devontae Adams week. I think the defense. I think we talking about Ben. It might be a little weather in Green Bay. Ben is on the road. And he's just terrible on the road. Even when Ben was good, he was terrible on the road.
Yep.
I think the Green Bay defense could be something.
Yep,
in the game too.
And 2 cheapies to look at that doesn't seem like they would make sense. With 3 cheapies you want to look at that look like they would make sense. Definitely look at the Cowboys because they do turn the ball over. They do a pretty good job of that. Look at the Lions versus Chicago because they got the rookie.
Yeah, one of the optimals.
The rookie.
Lions are popping in it.
Philadelphia. And this is why I want you to hear me on this one. Special teams.
Mm-hmm.
Philly's special teams is typically really good.
Right.
And on the defensive side, Kansas City has been really loose about their offense.
This week,
they're just doing things.
Yeah, we saw Mahomes throw, interceptions.
They had 4 turnovers
against the Chargers.
Against the Chargers, and that's not common.
No.
But this season, that's how loosey-goosey they've been playing. That's my biggest concern about KC going forward has been how loose they've been playing.
It's early.
It's early.
Yeah,
so they're still working it out. But I think they will maintain their looseness because they're playing the Eagles.
Yeah.
And so there's a good chance they're going to go out there and just go willy-nilly.
Yep.
So keep that in mind as well. So, all right, let's go right into it. May as well dive right into the finale. We got all these, the Frozen features. Love this portion of the show because it's me asking the OSG random questions, and I want to see what stuff he's got for us as far as biggest plays of the weekend. So that's what the Frozen features are. I want to know these 5 positions, what's craziness we've got. Yep. So you ready?
Yep. Finally got it open.
All right. First position, we're going to look at quarterback. I want you to tell me the quarterback that's going to give us 300 yards and 3 touchdowns.
303.
303.
Out of the top 5 or anything, or it don't matter?
It don't even matter. It's anybody in this one.
Oh, that's easy. Josh Allen.
Okay. J.A. You're thinking J.A. is going to give us that.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. You're confident. You seem confident about it.
We're
going
to Allen is going to
303.
Next 5 weeks.
303 touchdowns. Josh Allen next 3 weeks. Play him as your starter. All right. Running back. I want a running back that's going to eat. I want 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, you hate him, but Derrick Henry, that's easy.
Yeah. I just feel like they're going to not play him.
I understand.
I feel like they're going to get a lead and they're just going to say, nah.
You said 100 yard, 2 touchdowns?
Yep.
I'll go off the board because I keep playing him every week.
Okay.
And I just keep making him work. We talked about him because that's, because if I say that I'm going to go to the other guy, this is the week he goes. So Nick Chubb against Minnesota. And that finally break loose. Like nobody likes to play Chubb because he doesn't get the pass work.
He doesn't. It's all Kareem Hunt. It's such a mixed bag with them. You don't know who's going to break out that game.
But 100 yards, 2 touchdowns on the ground. I'll take Chubb.
We'll take it. All right. Wide receiver, 150, 2 touchdowns.
150 and 2. I mean, is it cheating to go with Cooper Kupp?
He's the safe bet.
I'll give you one.
But if you want to go off the beaten path,
I'll give you one because they are terrible against wide receivers.
Ooh,
they're in the dome.
Okay.
And he had a blow up game last week. Let me pull up his game log last week. I'm gonna read the game log. I'm gonna introduce him. Week 3 was there. But 2 weeks ago, he had, he's seen 14 targets and 11 catches from this quarterback. Give me Terry McLaurin against Atlanta in this dome.
Terry McLaurin.
Give it to him.
All right. McLaurin's going to give it to us. All right. Mm-hmm. Tight end. Who's going to get us 10 receptions?
If you have to go that high, it's got to be Travis Kelce. I talked about him being in a smash spot against Philly. He's going to cost. But Travis Kelce,
cost to be the boss.
He's the only one that's even capable to get those type of targets, let alone the actual receptions.
Okay, that makes sense. Yep. And I pulled that one out on purpose because we don't have Waller this week.
No,
we don't have Darren Waller since he's the Monday night game. We don't get him in the main slate.
I think Kelsey's going to have like wide receiver 1 type numbers this week.
I can dig that.
Philly.
That makes logical sense. Yeah. All right, lastly, the defense that's going to get us 3+ sacks.
3+ sacks?
Yes, I want to who's going to be pounding heads.
Sacks. Who's going to get some sacks?
Right. Throw you off on this one.
No. Ooh.
See, got him thinking. I purposely did this one. I want him to think at the end.
Let me see what they've done. 3 sacks.
Yes. I mean, we've had some games. We had Myles Garrett who got 5 sacks in the game. We had he didn't get 5, but he had a lot. Chandler Jones had 5 sacks in the game.
Yeah, you.
So we've had some players that have done it. The question is who's going to be able to produce that for us a second time?
They keep popping on this lineup builder. I said them earlier. Take the Colts.
Ooh,
they had 3 sacks against Russ in week 1. I think they can get to Brissett.
I can see that because Jacoby Brissett is infamous for holding the ball too long.
He does.
That is kind of his MO.
This is not.
That's his thing. That's the one thing that everyone points out about him. That's the problem is he holds the ball way too long. So, yeah, Myles Garrett had 4.5 sacks last week against the Bears. So, players are getting 5 by themselves.
Yep.
But on the defensive side, to guarantee 3, it definitely makes sense to go with.
I know the Titans are playing. The Titans actually got 3 sacks against, maybe we should be looking at because the Titans had 3 against Seattle, too. Maybe we need to say San Francisco. There's 2 game logs I just pulled up that both had 3 sacks, both against Seattle.
And Russell Wilson still has this tendency of holding the ball too long. He cooks too long.
It was always the offensive line. It was just his problem with protection. It just was his thing, and then make sure that that's right. And when it's clicking, it's clicking. And
I always feel like he overcooks, though.
Yeah, we kind of talked in this morning about going with that Buffalo game over the Seattle-San Francisco game. And while some people like this game, you can, Lockett and Metcalf. I think Lockett got a little banged up.
Yeah, he did.
But, Seattle and San Francisco they sometimes scream 17-14 in that division game. And maybe the second one it will be. But I like nothing from San Francisco's side every week from a fantasy standpoint. We just don't know what the running backs are going to do. I don't think Jimmy G is good. You can play Deebo Samuel as a number 1 receiver. But, I'm tempted to take either one of those defenses in that game over the offenses, to tell you the truth.
I got you.
San Francisco. So I know that's off the cuff, but, yeah.
Always good advice. So, of course, we appreciate y'all joining us as usual here on the OSG Report, Fantasy Report for Daily Fantasy Football, and here on Unfair Sports, as part of the PHrozen Media Network. So make sure you check out the OSG's written report. Will come out on our Medium page. You will see it in the description below. That's where all the details are going to come back. So for Mike, Bob, and Wendy, thank you so much for doing your thing on the production side. We appreciate you as usual. And for the OSG, like I said, check out the written portion of this. Hit us up. Comments, like, subscribe, all that jazz. But on the Instagram account as well as our Twitter at Unfair Sports, let us know what you think. We want to know your opinions and how you feel about all this stuff. So we'll have all of this lined up, prepared to go for your fantasy consumption and enjoyment, and building your rosters all on Saturday. So you can flick through on the YouTube channel which games you want to look at and while reading the report itself to get an understanding of the analysis. And then with that, we'll chop it up with y'all in a few days. Good luck. Happy winning.
See you at the top.
Peace.